Good morning. 2020 has been a very interesting year, hasn't it? With us not going out and playing many gigs at all, and that not looking to change in the foreseeable future. We've been using our time to get some things done around the house and improve our yard, and we found a program. We've actually known about it for a while by the National Wildlife Federation that allows you to certify your yard as a backyard wildlife habitat, and we decided we were going to go for it. So this morning I'm going to give you a little tour around of what we have done and explain how the certification works. So first of all, you have to provide five basic things. One is water, one is food, and then there's cover and shelter, places for wildlife to raise their young, and the last is some sustainable practices. So let's look at water first. We're going to look at our front yard first of all. This is our front yard water garden, and many of you all have seen this in previous videos. It has water lettuce, it has a water hyacinth in it, and aside from being aesthetically pleasing, something really nice to look at while you're sitting out front, it provides water, and we see birds drinking out of this all the time, daily, and not just birds, but squirrels too will come up and hop on the edge of the barrel and drink out of it. And the water lettuce provides food. I don't see anything eating water hyacinths, but who knows, that may happen. So this is our front yard water garden that meets the water qualification to get your yard certified. This is more of our front yard area, which is a little garden consisting of things like hen and chickens plants, some hostas, and some other flowers. And this provides both cover and shelter and food. So this morning in the hostas, I saw hummingbirds feeding at the hostas, so that was very cool. We have other flowering plants in here that provide food. Matter of fact, I don't know if you can see it or not, probably not, but there is a huge bumblebee over there on the hostas, so we're providing food. It's kind of in the upper right. You may have just seen him fly away. So this both provides food and cover. In these reedy type plants back there, something beds down in there at night, and I have not figured out yet what it is, but we'll come in and they're kind of trampled down, and something has certainly made a bed in there. So here is some cover, shelter, and food in the front yard. And this is our front yard feeder station. We've actually have caught a bird feeding at the bottom here. So I have two kinds of feeders out here. We have a traditional wild bird seed seeder. That's the one that looks kind of like a house or a barn. And then on the right, we have soot feeders, again, providing food for the birds, and squirrels and chipmunks. We have had so many species of birds here, I should probably try to keep a list. I have not done that, but we have seen blue jays, cardinals, pileated woodpeckers at the soot feeder, red-headed woodpeckers, downy woodpeckers, nuthatches, chickadees, American robins, and occasionally we've had a hawk come through looking for prey. You see the wooden board fence in the background. That's a favorite place for the hawk to set and look for prey. So that's our front yard feeder station. Very simple to set up. I've just got some shepherd hooks there that I hung the bird feeders from, and they sure do get a lot of action. One of the ways of providing shelter that's recommended is mature trees, and we have some huge, very mature trees in our front yard. And birds will nest in there, they will take shelter from the storm in there. So again, if you're looking for ways to provide shelter to certify your yard, don't neglect what you already have there, because that qualifies. Speaking of cover, shelter, and a place to raise young, this is a very dense pine tree we have in our front yard, and birds nest in here, they seek shelter in here, and it's a great place for them to raise their young. So again, if you're thinking about getting your yard certified by the National Wildlife Federation, you likely already have some things in your yard that qualify. Moving to the backyard, we have more water and food here. So in the bottom kind of right hand of your screen, you see a little water garden there. That's a much shallower one. That one has water lettuce, water hyacinth, and something called purple pickleweed in it. Provides water and food for the animals. And on the left, another feeding station that has a typical wild bird seed type feeder and another soot feeder. And we see the same species out back as we do out front. And not only birds, but small animals, so chipmunks, squirrels, things like that. And I am certain we caught a very quick glimpse of a fox running through our yard. There's a family of foxes nesting around here someplace. Behind the bird feeder station, as I turn the camera around a little bit, is a Chinese cherry bush. And that brings or bears little cherries in the spring. And again, that's a great natural food source. And you can tell that bush is very dense. So that provides, again, cover and shelter for the animals and a place for them to raise their young. Along the back of the house, we have a daylily bed, and that provides, again, food and shelter. And one of the things that you have to do is practice sustainable practices. So we use mulch in the flower bed that we have done. And here's our mulching area. We've got a big mulching bin here that we mulch things up and use it for fertilizer for flowers and plants and so on. And we have some things waiting to be mulched. It's a pretty simple process. You put it in the bin and you rotate it once every 24 hours, and it's not very long before you've got some really good, thick mulch. One of the sustainable practices. The other things we do besides mulching is we don't use any chemicals on the lawn. We only use environmentally friendly weed killers and things like that to maintain some flower beds and so on. So that's a couple of the sustainable practices that are required if you want to certify your backyard. And as we continue to move around the back of the yard, these are wild blackberry bushes. And oh my goodness, do the birds and squirrels really love these things. We thought we might get enough blackberries to make a cobbler this year, but I think the wildlife is going to keep us from doing that. But that's a very small price to pay. And this is an area that is just getting started. This is a nice ivy bed. So when we think of cover, we often think of things like this. Big, high, mature trees for the animals to nest in. But we forget about the ground-dwelling animals. So something like a big ivy bed that becomes very thick provides some necessary shelter and cover for those ground-bearing animals. And we are back to the Chinese cherry bush, and you can tell how thick this bush is. This is a great source of cover for birds to hide in. We've had things living in the under the canopy down below, and they'll pop out once in a while to get a drink of water. So anyway, that's a little tour of our yard as we get it certified as a backyard wildlife habitat by the National Wildlife Federation. If you want more information, I'll put a link in the description below. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Get my shadow out of the way there. There's the water garden and our backyard feeding station. Could I ask a favor of you guys? Take a few minutes. Most of this channel is populated with us playing music. Check out a couple of our songs, and if you don't mind, subscribe and maybe give us a thumbs up on one or two of them. Have a great day, everybody, and thanks for following along on our adventure.